Hello, welcome back. So I haven't made a video in 8 months or something like that because in all honesty I did not know what I wanted to talk about and I just didn't want to throw out a video just talking about whatever. But I realized that I had this book that I've written 5 years ago, 6 years ago, no, wow, Jesus Christ, 8 years ago, and then I never did anything with it. It's kind of like a philosophical book, like it talks about the ideas that I explored and read from different authors when I was exploring and trying to understand what life was about and all that whole thing. And I thought it would be a cool experiment and project to kind of like make videos out of each chapter or each idea within the chapters that I develop and see what came out of that, and maybe I'll finish it with the videos and see what comes out of it. So the first video was, I think I've already made a video about the introduction of the book. There should be a video called We All Have It Wrong, or Everybody is Wrong, which means that even though we've tried time and time again throughout different civilizations and societies to explain what reality and life is, we've always failed, because being an aspect of existence of reality means that we're a system or like an aspect of a system, and being that there's a concept of inconsumability, meaning that we cannot consume the complexity of reality in order to create a proper explanation of it, a definitive, absolute explanation of it, because we are limited by our own human characteristics and our conceptual capacities. So the next chapter was called Understanding Reality, which I would call There's No Spoon from the Matrix. Because after I kind of understood that, okay, we cannot know what reality is, I started to read like physics books and philosophical texts, trying to see what had people actually tried to say about it, right? And I started to realize the more I read that the concept that I was interested in was actually information, because information as a concept holds everything. It can hold absolutely everything. Even the absence of knowledge is also information in a certain way. So I was living in a beach in the northern part of Peru back there with my girlfriend, now wife, and I was trying to figure that out, right? And I sit down on the shore of the beach, and I kind of stumbled upon this realization. Of course, the shore, the ocean came in and out, and the sand was there, and of course the sand is created by the constant abrasion of the waves, pulverizing the rocks or whatever is there into this apparent homogeneous substance. And I realized, okay, that's interesting, because sand, which is a concept, that's an individual concept, sand cannot exist without the ocean, at least those types, that type of sand. And that led me to understand that everything in nature is an interrelated aspect or an interrelated object with another. It means that, for example, that this is a cliche thing, and I'm stealing this from Alan Watts. Flowers imply bees. At least 70% of the flowers out there in the world that need the pollinators to do their thing. So bees and flowers come together, and that's an interesting concept. Like shores and the ocean come together. So language is tricky, but that'll be the next video I'll do. Language is tricky because it gives us the impression that objects in and of itself can exist in a vacuum without being interrelated to something else. But if you extrapolate that idea, you'll realize that everything in existence is a deeply interrelated system of aspects of the original Big Bang. Meaning that, let's take the Big Bang as the truth, right? So out of this singularity that nobody knows how it happened, thank you science, everything came out of it, everything. And it's been through a linear process of constant complexification that the bodies that were created, I think at first it was like a plasmatic ooze that spread out through time and space, and then it cooled down and started to create different bodies like suns and whatnot. And when they exploded, the carbon particles that were in the cores were spread out and started to recombine and whatnot. The thing is that through the entire astrophysical process, more complex systems were built upon the manifestations that reality had already produced, meaning that it's like each step keeps producing a new one, a synthesis of parts. And this is kind of like evolution in a sense. And that at a given point, when the right conditions are met, and this is yet again going back to the interrelated system, when there's a sun at a certain point with a certain size, with a certain field, with a certain gravity, and there's a planet within a distance of that sun that has the correct conditions, chemical conditions, and it's at the right distance, that it produces the right amount of gravity, then things like, for example, water needs to have all those conditions met. Because according to different types of gravity and distance within the sun, the liquids won't be able to manifest. So water is dependent on that exact relationship, at least as we know it here on planet Earth, meaning that water does not exist in a vacuum just like wherever. It has to meet certain conditions in order to exist as we know it. And when you keep going down and down through that rabbit hole, you realize that if everything's made out of this same substance that came from the Big Bang, and it's only been manifested in different ways, and we've come through that process, we're within that process. It's not that humanity is just like this end result and that's it. We are the process in that complexification movement, and it will keep going. We don't know where the hell it will keep going, but it will keep going. And that's an interesting point to get at, because when you realize that it is all just one big field of interrelated aspects, and you understand how language tricks us into thinking that the objects can exist by themselves somehow, you start to understand how concepts in language skew our perception or understanding of what is actually happening. So why is this important? Because if you think about it, this interrelated field that is interacting with its different aspects all comes from this original source, meaning that we all are part of this same thing, this same event. And that is not the result of it. We are still in that process. We are still this evolutionary complexifying process. And that puts us in a peculiar position, which is realizing that we're not an observer outside of that, but we're actually deeply ingrained here. And that opened a particular door, which was, if human beings are symptomatic of the evolutionary or complexifying process of the universe, where the right conditions are met, that means that in the same way when you see a tree producing apples, and I'm stealing this from Alan Watts again, then you go and you understand, oh, okay, this tree produces apples because with the right conditions are met, that specific tree will create those apples. When you see a planet such as ours, it peoples, it creates intelligent beings. Now, of course, there's different ways of understanding this. Like if you have a materialistic, kind of like a deterministic point of view stemming out of, let's say, Newtonian physics from the 17th century, influenced by Cartesian models, then you'll say it's just chance and randomness that it eventually produces it. Even though we don't know how, first of all, life appeared and from the inorganic processes, meaning where was that switch from like this magic moment. If you actually go and look, where did life begin or how did it begin, we don't have a clear answer. There's a lot of theories about it, but we don't have a clear answer. And that brings us to this kind of like tricky question of, okay, if everything is an interrelated field of aspects, and we, like human beings, are here, and animals and plants and nature, and it seems to be intelligent in different degrees, of course, then is consciousness and intelligence symptomatic of nature and reality? And if that's the case, then we have to go into why or what different types of models there are in order to understand reality, to see which one fits better with the experience that we have as existence. Okay, that's pretty much it. And I hope you like this video. I'll keep making them. I'll continue with the next chapter or the part of the chapter because I didn't quite finish it. And yeah, I'll see you next time. Subscribe and everything. And yeah, see you soon.